What is up, everybody, and welcome back to, I guess, a long-delayed return to Off the Shelves. Time has gotten away from me when it comes to this show. If it tells you anything about how freaking busy I have been over the last number of months, during the summer especially, I have a whole ton of movies to show you, and damn near every single one of them are still in the original plastic. I haven't opened or watched any of these things. So, yeah, we've got quite a bit. I've got a number of older films, a couple of box sets. I've got a number of 4K double dips, as always, and then a nice little stack of some sexy new releases. Now, before I get into all of these, I actually had the pleasure and the honor to be a fill-in guest over on the Burnett Work, Robert Meyer Burnett's channel on YouTube, for his Let's Get Physical Media show, which is something that they do pretty much every single Sunday afternoon, where they talk about physical media and some of the upcoming releases in the Bluray and 4K boutique shops. And so the regular co-host Dieter was out, had to go do a late night shift at work. And so I had the pleasure of filling in, had a great time. So I'll put the link to that episode down below if you guys want to go check that out. But got to talk about a couple of these releases in that show, but I got a whole lot more to show you today. But nonetheless, a huge thank you to Rob and Dieter, and hopefully we'll get to do something again soon. So something I want to show you guys first is not technically a physical media release. This is actually a custom-made box to hold a bunch of my 4K Blu-rays. And if I can find the link where I purchased this, I'll stick it in the video description. But I was trying to find it for a friend the other day, and I could not find this damn thing. So I just happened to see it on Facebook, and I ordered one of the ones that were available. But this is a custom Child's Play box set, where every single side of it is its own custom artwork. Turn it up this way, actually. Its own custom artwork. And you guys know I love my Chucky, and so all of the recent Shout Factory, Scream Factory releases, including the remake from a couple of years ago, all fit into this box. So this is officially my sexiest Chucky box set, of which I have like 4 at this point. So I wanted to show you guys that. Very cool. Now we'll start off with the older films, and all I know about this film is that apparently Affleck is the bomb. And that is Phantoms. I've never had the pleasure of checking this out. I've heard that it's a pretty cool movie, so I bought it. It came out not too long ago on 4K, but I have yet to check it out. So I just have not had time to really watch anything that was not related to the channel. So please let me know down below. Is this actually a really cool little cult classic, or is it just famous because Kevin Smith decided to reference it in his movie? Now we have another whole set of films that I'm ashamed to say I have not seen most of them, but this is going to be kind of a soft promise of a review series sometime in the future. And this is the Universal Classic Monsters box set. So you have 30 films here. You have all of the Dracula films, Frankenstein, Mummy, Wolfman, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the original Phantom of the Opera. So I have only seen a couple of these. I have always wanted to check these out. I didn't even realize there were so many of them. So I don't know how many I'm going to get to, but nonetheless, I would love to do a review series at some point next year where I go over at least the classics, like the original Dracula, the original Frankenstein, stuff like that. So I picked this up. It's a hell of a set, and I look forward to checking those out sooner than later. Kind of going along the same genre, it's kind of the same lines as that. I picked up this, which is actually the Blu-ray collection of all of the Abbott and Costello movies, and there is 28 films here. Now, the majority of these I have not seen as well, but I have always loved Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's absolutely a comfort film for me, and so I kind of had it on the brain because of the classic monster box set here, and I think a couple of Abbott and Costello movies are actually in that set. And I came across this one, and I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. Let me go ahead and get this one, too. That way, if I'm in the mood, I can throw in some of these. So I'm looking forward to checking out quite a few, because I have not seen the majority of them. Just pretty much Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. But I know they meet the Invisible Man, and they know they meet the Mummy and a few others. So I'm looking forward to that one. Oh, 90s kids, do not let me down. I know you love this as much as I do. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, as well as the sequel, Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, which I only saw once. I don't remember loving it. It was okay. But Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is by far my favorite Scooby-Doo film of all time. I remember having the VHS tape. If I remember correctly, actually, I had gotten the tape for Casper Meets Wendy, and I watched it, and I was like, I got a crush on Hilary Duff pretty hard here, but I don't know if I like this movie so much. It's kind of weird. And so I remember we took the movie back and I exchanged it for this, and this was just an absolute classic. And so I saw this was a little set that came out and decided to get this. I look forward to watching this at some point and checking out Return to Zombie Island. I don't remember hardly anything about it for being such a cool little return, but yeah, it's worth its weight in gold just for that original. Then we have this, which I bought, which it's not really relevant now because the movie's like 2 months old, but I bought the original Twister because I wanted to check it out again, leading up to Twisters. And as you could see, I never actually opened it. I ended up watching it on like Max or something like that. So I was about to buy the 4K, and then I watched it on Max, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, so I decided not to get it. But nonetheless, spent like $6 and got that one, so we'll at least add the original to my collection. I look forward to adding the sequel because I actually thought Twisters was a little bit better than the original. I don't know if I'm on an island with that. Probably am, but yeah, that does it for all of our old school releases for this, I'd say month, but this quarter of the year. Now moving on to all of my 4K double dips. These are films that I already own on Blu-ray, but I decided to buy the 4K version. First off, we have Red Eye, which is a Wes Craven film, one of his final films, and I just noticed somebody must have pressed on the damn Blu-ray in shipping, because you see that little ring right there? That's the little spindle that's holding the disc. You sons of bitches. Messed up the integrity of my packaging. Nonetheless, pretty good little movie. It wasn't near the top of my ranking necessarily when I went over all of Wes Craven's films, but I did like it. It was solid, so I wanted to check this one out again and add it to the collection. Now, this one, those of you guys that follow a lot of my other content know that I just got back from Arizona. I went to Gathering of the Ghouls, which is a horror convention party thrown by the guys at Terror Trader, and they had a screening for the original Return of the Living Dead. And I've never been a huge fan of that movie. I've only seen it once. It didn't really do much for me, but after watching it with a really lively crowd and Joe Bob Briggs' introduction and for the cast members doing a panel afterwards, I highly enjoyed this film, and so I picked up the 4K. And this is another soft promise for a review series coming a lot sooner than the Universal Monster ones. I'll probably try to squeeze this one out in October, where I review this one, the second film, and the third one, which I actually already have. So I enjoyed this quite a bit, wanted to check it out, wanted to add it to the collection, so I got the 4K here. I do have the Blu-ray, but I bought it to watch it once, and I was like, not really for me. And things change. Now we have the 4K release of The Crow, which looks gorgeous, by the way. It's a really good 4K release, one of the few that I actually have had the chance to watch in a lot of these piles, but it's a shame that it's released to coincide with such a disappointing remake, because I did not like the remake whatsoever. But this original is a classic from 1994. If you've never seen it, this is a great thing to check out. It's a movie that still holds up quite a bit, and the 4K is awesome. So actually, I haven't even been given ratings to most of these movies, so I guess I need to throw that in here. You can tell I haven't done this for a while. I'm like so out of the game. This is absolutely a go out and buy it. So go out and buy it. Now we have one of my favorite films of all time, which is The Departed, and this was a 4K release that came out not too long ago. So this is probably my second favorite Scorsese film of all time, next to Goodfellas. This is one that I saw in theaters, blew my mind, turned me into a fanatic of Scorsese as well as Leo DiCaprio. I wasn't really a big fan of his until this movie, and it's just awesome. It's absolutely brilliant. I know people give it shit like, oh, he won Best Director for that, and I'm like, you're damn right, because it's fucking awesome. So what's the deal? Go out and buy it. This is one of my favorites of all time. Absolute classic for me. Now we have the Oceans trilogy on 4K, which I have seen everything except for the second film. I tried watching the second film twice and just could not get through it. Oceans 12. And that seems to be a fairly popular opinion, that most people don't like the second film, love the first one, and kind of like the third one. I've always really liked Ocean's 13. So Ocean's 11 is great. Ocean's 13 is great in my mind. I look forward to checking out the second film again at some point. There's rumors they're going to do an Ocean's 14. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. So good to have this on the shelf for when that day comes and I can kind of revisit all of these. So I would say go out and buy Ocean's 11. I would actually say go out and buy Ocean's 13. I like that one quite a bit. Ocean's 12, you could probably stream that one. Now we move on to the Mad Max anthology, and I bought this obviously whenever Furiosa was coming out. I already owned these on Blu-ray, but this is the 4Ks, and so definitely wanted to get the better quality versions of all of these. And This is a movie series that would be fun to review at some point, but I just didn't really have the motivation with Furiosa. I liked Furiosa. You'll see that later on in the video, but it wasn't like Fury Road level of holy shit, I'm like Mad Max fever right now. So it's been years since I have seen the first one and the third one. So from my memory, I would say to stream Mad Max. It's very Australian, very low budget, but it was a cool flick. The Road Warrior is probably my favorite of all of them, actually. So that one's a go out and buy it. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, never been a big fan of that one. I would say skip that one. And then Mad Max Fury Road's one of the best sequels ever. So that's also a go out and buy it. But this is a really nice little set. Wasn't too expensive. So wanted to add that one to the collection. Now we have a film that I bought because I really wanted to watch it, and I still have not watched it. Just been so busy. Bound. The only thing I know about this film is the thing that everybody knows about this film. I know it's like a erotic thriller. I know that there's some things going on with Joe Pantoliano's character and everything, so it's not just like a lesbian sex movie, but that's what the movie's legacy is. It's that hot sex scene between Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly that they reference all the time in the Chucky series. So wanted to finally check this out. It's actually interesting more so for me to see what the Wachowskis did before they went ultra weird with things like The Matrix and Onward. And The Matrix is like one of the least weird things that they've done, oddly enough. So I do want to check this one out. I just have not had a chance to yet. Actually, this should not have been in Double Dips because I've never owned it before. But nonetheless, fuck it. Now we have Narc, another one that should not be in Double Dips. What did I do? I am so off my game, guys. We have Narc, and this is one that I've always wanted to check out. It always seemed like a really cool movie. I think this one is directed by, it is Joe Carnahan, who I like a lot of his films. And this is a like gritty cop movie starring Jason Patrick and Ray Liotta. And so you could just tell me that just gritty cop movie with those two actors, I'm there. For some reason, this one has always slipped through my radar. I've never been able to actually sit down and watch it, but this was a badass little 4K release. I love the cover. So definitely wanted to check this one out, and hopefully I will get a chance to soon. So let me know if you guys like this movie, what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Now we have an absolute classic, and we have the 4K Criterion release of Risky Business. One of my favorite Tom Cruise movies for sure. Absolutely love this one. It's definitely on the more adult side of coming of age, but it's one of those coming of age movies that's just kind of so risky and weird that I always really enjoy it. So one of my favorites. This is absolutely a go out and buy it. If I was to rank all of Tom Cruise's films, that would definitely be in my top 10 somewhere. And now we have the latest thing that I bought to add to this collection, and that is the 4K release of the Amityville Horror remake. And I really like this movie. I'm actually one of those people that's never really been that fond of the original. I don't find it to be that great of a movie, so the hate this movie gets has always puzzled me because I think it's easily a better film. Maybe that puts me on the crazy island, but I saw this in theaters. I thought it was scary as fuck when I first saw it. Obviously, it's, a part of that Platinum Dunes era of horror remakes. So nowadays it seems kind of tame in comparison, but I think that Ryan Reynolds is incredible in this. I think that his performance is totally underrated, and there's some really solid scares here. So to me, this is the Amityville Horror movie to watch. If you're going to watch one, this one is a go out and buy it for me. Always been one of my favorites. And that does it for all of those. Now we are moving on to the stack of brand spanking new releases. And we're going to kick this off with a neat little movie that wasn't really on my radar, and it was a cool little flick, and that is Sting. So the two Spider films you got that came out this year, this and Infested, I do think Infested was a little bit better, but this one is a fun movie. This one is more the B movie approach to that, where you have this extraterrestrial version of an arachnid that comes down in this little like pod, almost like a little meteor, lands into this apartment building, and starts to crawl around, and everything that it eats, it gets bigger. And so eventually you have this gigantic, like humongous spider that is running through and just murdering all of the tenants of this apartment building. So it's a little silly. Some of the apartment complex tenants were a little too B movie for me, but it's fun. It's gory. It definitely makes you wince if you have any kind of arachnophobia. So this one was a good time. I recommend checking it out. This is a stream it for me. Now we have one of the most genuine surprises of the year so far, and that is The First Omen. Now, I expected dick from this movie. I love the original Omen. It's probably my favorite film from the 70s, certainly my favorite horror film from the 70s. But I don't really like any of the other Omen movies. I only like the original. I never really thought that it made sense to make sequels. The 2 prequel attempts I don't care for. And so yet another prequel attempt. I'm like, what the fuck? What is there left to do? Who cares? What do you want? What more do you want from me? And then I went to go see this. And even more so than that, I got even more skeptical of it because people saw the movie Immaculate and said, oh yeah, the first Omen, it's like the exact same movie. And I had just watched it like 2 weeks previous. So I was like, oh great. Now I just have to sit through a redundant version of a film that I just saw plus a prequel. Can't wait not to see it. And this is probably going to end up in my top 10 horror films of the year for sure. Might even squeeze into my top 5 because this one was just a really, really pleasant surprise. It's visceral. It's fucked up. You got some really gnarly visuals in here. And narratively, it's one of the few horror prequels that actually merits its existence. It actually adds something to the original film. It actually tells some story that's worth telling. It's not just, let's make up some shit and let's answer some questions you weren't asking so that we can make another Omen film. So if you were like me and very understandably had a lot of hesitance about this film, give it a shot because it is damn good. This one actually is going to get a go out and buy it for me. So I like it quite a bit. I can't wait to watch it again. Now we are on to what, as of right now, is still my number 1 film of the year, and that is Abigail. Man, it's been a while since I've done Blu-rays. It's got dust on it and shit. Good Lord. You didn't see that. Anyway, Abigail, I saw the world premiere of this at the Overlook Film Festival. Got to briefly interview the guys at Radio Silence, and luckily, I ended up absolutely loving this film. Like, to me, this is just my kind of movie. If you love movies like The Lost Boys, this is definitely cut from the same cloth. It's so gory and intense, yet hilarious and fun. The cast is great all the way across the board. There's huge laugh out loud moments. I mean, this was just an absolute blast. I have not had as much fun as I have had with this film at all this year, with a close second being Deadpool and Wolverine, which is a totally different movie. But I absolutely adore this movie. It's one of my absolute favorites of all time at this point, and it's still reigning supreme as my favorite film of the year. So needless to say, go out and buy it. Now we have the film that is likely to be everybody else's number 1 by the end of the year, and that is Dune Part 2. Now, I do need to rewatch this one, and I will rewatch it before I do my end of the year ranking. But this is a movie that, while I liked, it just didn't hit those crazy highs that seemingly everybody else had. I mean, I've had people tell me this is the best film that's been released in over a decade. It's nowhere near that for me. I really enjoyed the first Dune, surprisingly. I didn't expect to like it, and I was really anticipating this one. And I don't know if I just expected something different or I expected too much from it, but I was severely bummed out at the fact that this was a middle chapter and not a conclusion. And so it felt like the movie just took a really long time building up to things that are just going to be paid off later on. So there's great sequences here. There's incredible acting. It's filmmaking at its absolute finest as far as just what Denis Villeneuve can do with the world building here. Some really solid action sequences. All of the worm riding, the sandworm stuff is awesome. So I'm not putting the movie down. It's going to end up in my top 15 or so of the year, most likely, probably top 10. But it just, for a movie that people are handing like crown of like greatest film that's been made this millennium, it's just not that for me. So we'll see. Maybe I'll rewatch it and it'll end up being my number 1 of the year. Doubtful, but still picked it up because it's awesome and I want to check it out again. Now we have The Fall Guy, which was the film that kind of kicked off the summer with a whimper, and everybody was like, oh my God, movies are dead, theaters are dead. And I was like, well, I mean, is this really the movie that we want to hinge all that on? Like The Fall Guy? It looks fun, but like, is this really the movie that seems like you're going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and if it doesn't, we're all doomed? I was not really a part of that at all. To me, it made sense. Like, this seems like a fun little movie, but people aren't really identifying with it. I don't know why, but myriad of reasons why. Maybe people aren't really latching onto it. The name predominantly, like, doesn't tell you really anything about what's going on, and I didn't even realize this was a TV show and how many people my generation or younger would. So, with all that being said, it's a fun movie. It's not incredible. It certainly has its issues. It tries to do too much. It's like 1/3 romantic comedy, 1/3 action film, 1/3 send up of Hollywood stunt guys. And it needed to pick 2 of those. But it's still a fun flick. Ryan Gosling's a lot of fun. Didn't have the best chemistry with Emily Blunt. I got to say, I was a little surprised by that. But You got some solid action here, some really good stunt work, and it's a fun flick. So if it sounded like it was going to be fun to you, you'll probably enjoy it. I understand why you didn't rush out of the theater to see it, but now that it's at home, check it out. I would say to stream this one. It's on the higher end of stream it, but I liked it, didn't love it. But I liked it enough to get it, to own it, to throw it on the shelf. Now, speaking of that movie that we were just talking about, Immaculate, I actually like this one more than most people, and I had like a really opposite reaction of everybody else. Everybody else seemed to say the first 2/3 of this film is kind of boring and nothing happens, and then the third act is where everything gets awesome. And I kind of had the opposite effect. I was really intrigued with everything it was building up in the first 2 acts, and then the third act, I don't know, kind of felt like it went a little cliche for me. So very unique to have that opinion on this film. But this, to me, if it did nothing else, it made me a Sydney Sweeney fan because she's incredible in this. And this is the first time that I really get to see her act because I don't watch Euphoria. Obviously, I knew who she was, but this is the first time I really get to see her do what she does. And I think that she's damn good. And I love the story that she basically agreed to do Madam Web, knowing it was going to suck so that she could get this made. Like, fuck yeah, girl. You take your shots. So I really dug this. I would say to stream it. Of the two, this and First Omen's certainly the better of the two, but this one's worth your attention. Now we have Furiosa. And this was another one, just like The Fall Guy, where everybody expected this to be like $1 billion film, and it didn't make anywhere near that. And then everybody was sounding the alarm bells. Movie theaters are dead. Movie industry's dead. Nobody wants to see movies anymore. We're all fucking doomed. And even more so than The Fall Guy, I was like, really? This one? Like, it's been a long fucking time since Fury Road. Like, they did not strike while the iron was hot whatsoever. That iron is stone cold. And as much as I love the character in Fury Road, and as much as I really like Anya Taylor-Joy, Furiosa as the lead of a film was never an idea that really sounded like that good of an idea to me. Maybe if they released it 2 years after Fury Road and we were still kind of riding that high, people would have dug it more, but people want to go to a Mad Max film to see Mad Max. That's not sexist. That is not prejudice whatsoever, even though there's a lot of people that tried to assign it to that. Furiosa was a great side character, and most people didn't really have the interest to go watch an entire film based off of that character. That's the fact. Now, when you actually go and see it, it's good. It's not great. It's nowhere near as good as Fury Road. I think that the diving back into that world is certainly fun. I think that Anya Taylor-Joy does a pretty good job at bringing the character to life. Not nearly as good as Charlize, in my opinion. I think that Chris Hemsworth is having a blast, and so he was kind of the main draw for me to check out what he was going to do with that weird prosthetic nose and everything. But also with this, it doesn't really feel as real, feel as visceral, feel as tangible as Fury Road did. This feels a lot more green screeny and a lot more digital effects and just a lot more like almost comic booky, which is fine. It gives the movie an interesting look, but that's also something that a lot of people saw the trailer and they went, I don't know about that. That seems a little defeating the point of what we go to these movies for. And so I had to kind of agree. I don't think the movie looked nearly as good as it could have if they had made it more real and not focus so much on the glossy look and all the exposed colors and everything. So I liked this movie. It was good. Made complete sense to me why it wasn't a box office hit. Why they thought it was going to is beyond me. But nonetheless, it's good. If you like the Mad Max films, you'll probably enjoy it. I would say to stream it. And now we have the final release of this video, which is another film that is currently in my top 5 of the year. And that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I absolutely adore this franchise, predominantly the most recent 3 films before this one, the Caesar trilogy. I think that trilogy is one of the greatest of all time. And so I really had high hopes for this one. And while I don't think it's as good as any of those previous 3, it's still really good. It builds a lot of intrigue. It enters us into a timeline in this world that is very interesting to me. I absolutely want to see more stories here. The CGI and the motion capture is as incredible as it's always been. The character work is really solid here. This movie just, if I was to criticize it for anything, it doesn't have the oomph of those previous 3. It doesn't have the dramatic weight. It doesn't have the deep character of Caesar, at least yet. And it's a lot of setup. You know, it's a movie that doesn't necessarily have a very fast pace or a whole lot of payoff in it. It's a lot of setup of where things are going to go, but it's setup that I'm very invested in. Now, the thing that's cool about this release that Robert Meyer Burnett actually enlightened me to is that you can actually watch this film in a split screen where they have the actual finished theatrical cut on one side. On the other side, you have the raw footage of all the actors in the motion capture suits. And that fascinates me. I might watch that before I actually rewatch the theatrical cut of the film, because being able to see how they created this film and take the CGI off of it and see what the actors are actually physically doing, that fascinates me. And that's something that makes this release worth its weight in gold all by itself. Even if the fucking movie wasn't on it. If this was just a release of just that cut, I probably would have bought it. But yeah, this is still sitting in my top 5 of the year so far, and this is something I absolutely had to have on my shelf, if nothing else, for that awesome special feature. And that is a go out and buy it all day long. Quick wardrobe change. I had a couple of physical media releases come into the mail today, and I absolutely wanted to include these on this video. So, as far as older films that I'm actually being able to buy on Blu-ray for the first time, we have Death to Smoochie. If you guys have not seen this movie, this is one of, if not the most underappreciated Robin Williams film of all time. Like, this is Robin Williams at his most crass, at his most irreverent. And if you're somebody who's a fan of his more family-friendly stuff, give this a shot, because you might actually be shocked at the places that Robin Williams goes. But this is a really funny movie that's directed by Danny DeVito, where it's kind of playing off of like Captain Kangaroo and Barney and things like that, and just kind of the criminal underbelly that connects all of those. So that's about all I need to tell you to get you enticed to watch this if you haven't already seen it, but it is absolutely hilarious. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. Finally, on Blu-ray. Thank you so much, Shout Factory. Now, moving over to 4K double dips, we have the awesome Arrow release of Friday the 13th, 2009. One of my favorite Friday the 13th films for sure. And this has the theatrical cut. It has the killer cut. It's got a number of special features to it. It's got this badass cover right here. I haven't taken the plastic off, so there might be some more goodies inside of it. But this just came today, too, and I've been waiting on this one for a very long time. So this is going to be a limited edition release. It is on Amazon. You can still order it from Arrow. So if you want this, act now or forever hold your peace. But this one is absolutely a go out and buy it, as well as this one. So I wanted to throw those onto the video last minute before we wrap things up. Well, that is it for this one, guys. I managed to get through all that in 26 minutes. It's pretty impressive. But nonetheless, I'm sorry it was such a long wait between episodes. It's just been crazy busy this year. But hopefully, as we get some more physical media releases here towards the back end of the year, I'll have another one out sometime probably in November, around Black Friday time probably. So I guess that probably would be December. It'll be a couple of months, because we don't get physical media releases quite as often as we used to. But a couple months from now, you'll get a new installment from me. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and let me know all of your thoughts on all these releases, predominantly the ones I have not seen yet, down in the comment section below. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, click over here for all my 2024 new release reviews, and up here's a playlist of all of my off-the-shelves episodes from the last 7+ years. So please check that out, like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future, and as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.